In the last 5 years, 360 newspapers have closed across the country. Bigger chunk in the last 3 years since the pandemic. There's now a new term called news desert, where some of these cities and towns don't have a local newspaper, and the issues that they're starting to see. And it's going to be sad to see what happens over the next decade or so when we start losing some more of these community newspapers, and how things will change, and how will there be issues where cities are kind of hiding some stuff under the rug because no one's watching them.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Business Ninjas. I'm here today with Greg Robinson, owner and publisher of Brentwood Press and Publishing Company. How you doing today, Greg?
I am fantastic. Good morning, Andrew. Thanks for having me on today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for being here. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and about the Brentwood Press.
Well, thank you for asking. My story is kind of interesting. I actually was hired as the 6th employee 23 years ago when we launched this company, the Brentwood Press and Publishing, and kind of worked my way up through the ranks. And 15 years into my term, the original owner was ready to retire and sell the paper, and I convinced him to sell the paper to my wife and I. So within a 15-year period, I went from the 6th employee to the owner. And now my wife and I have owned the paper for the last 9 years. So we are the epitome of a mom and pop newspaper organization. My wife, Sandy, kind of runs the business side of the business, and I actually run the newspaper. So it's been pretty exciting. We are a community weekly newspaper. We actually have a daily news site. So when I started 23 years ago, the whole digital concept wasn't even a thought process yet. And these little smartphones that we all carry didn't exist. So it came from the print background, but realized many years ago that digital was the wave of the future. And so we had launched a pretty robust website, and that's actually what brought us through the pandemic. And what's kind of exciting is during the pandemic, we also launched our app, and we actually own the name The Press in the worldwide app store. So we're pretty excited about that. And we actually rebranded our paper at that point as well. We used to have our 3 banners: the Brentwood Press, the Oakley Press, the Discovery Bay Press. Once we were able to secure the name The Press for the app, we actually decided to rebrand our paper. So now we just have the one banner, The Press, but we still cover the cities of Brentwood, Oakley, Discovery Bay here in Northern California.
That's a coup. One would think your phone will ring at some point and someone will offer you enough money to find you on a beach for the rest of your days with a name like The Press and the App Store.
Yes, that is our hope.
What is
for
the
sale?
Yeah, well, I'll take a 5% commission on that. What is the circulation of the press?
Well, it's kind of an interesting thing. I mean, now when we talk circulation, it's not just the circulation that we would traditionally think of the printed paper, but we now really have to look at our circulation as not only a combination of the print and the digital side. Back in the day, prior to the world changing to all the digital stuff, we were a TMC where we delivered the paper to every home in town. Again, during the pandemic, we did change our business model where we kept the newspaper free. But we told people if they would like us to deliver it to their home, they have to become a subscriber. So we do now have subscribers who are paying for home delivery. A lot of the people do pick it up in the rack. So our current circulation right now with our printed product is 7,000 papers that we print and deliver. But we also have about 3,000 people who read our newspaper online on our page turner software. So on our website, thepress.net, you can read all the stories in its HTML format, but we do have a really robust page turner software where people can flip through the newspaper, read the headlines, see the stories, see the ads. And what's really cool is I'm hoping in the future more and more people look at that page turner, because now we're able to embed videos into the stories. So the advantage of reading the paper online is that I can also add more pictures and add video. We're able to add video into the advertising. So it actually makes it a better reader experience. As well as we have, a voice, it's Trinity Audio, where people can actually click on the story and have it be read to them.
Oh,
So
excellent.
people who have reading issues, or they're able to actually get the news and listen to the information and hear it, as opposed to having to read it. So we're trying to cover all bases, not only in print but digital as well.
For those listeners who are not sure where you are, please tell them where you're located, what cities and towns you cover.
Sure. Well, we're here in Brentwood, California, but I have to clarify that we are in Northern California. We are actually in a very unique area. We're in the heart of the Delta and the start of the California Ag Core. We're 1 hour to San Francisco, 1 hour to Sacramento, 1 hour to San Jose, and I like to say 3.5 hours to my favorite place, South Lake Tahoe.
Ah, there you go.
So Bay Area.
Excellent. And I would say, how do you generate revenue? But is that from your subscription model, or?
Well, the newspaper business is really, at least in a weekly, was always from the ad revenue. So that is still our largest revenue generator, is the advertising dollars come from the local businesses. But we do now have some subscription dollars coming in, which helps, but very small percentage, as well as we also have just several people who have become donors. The business model of these community weekly newspapers, we realized over these last several years, is the business model has to change. It's no longer going to be able to be supported by that business revenue, the advertising revenue. So you have to get those subscribers, but also what we're getting now are people who want to just support community journalism. They believe in democracy, they believe in the freedom of speech and the First Amendment right and all those great things. So we now have people who are become just donors, who are making, a $10 donation. We have some people that make a $10 donation on a monthly basis. So that it's a small percentage, but every little bit helps to keep the doors open.
That's fabulous. I'm glad to know that there are people out there that feel that way about it and will put their money where their mouth is. Tell me about the challenges and opportunities that COVID provided in terms of growing your business.
Wow, what an interesting story that is. When we got that news in March of 2020 that we're going to close for a few weeks, and as we were all told, just stay home for 2 weeks, it's going to blow over, it'll all be better. I very distinctly remember that day starting to get phone calls from my advertisers saying that they were going to hold their ad because they were closing for the week or 2 weeks. So I started making a list of all the people that were calling to know what was happening. Well, after a few hours, I decided it might be easier to make the list might be shorter if I say who hasn't called. So we ended up actually suspending the printing of our paper, but we never missed an issue. So because of that page turner software, we did produce a paper every single week, covering all the COVID, what was happening, the shutdowns, but it was digital. So that's really what saved us through COVID. So we never missed an issue, but we did not print the paper for a couple of weeks. That was the catalyst, though, that allowed us to make those changes I mentioned earlier, that changing our banner from the 3 different banners where we had to stop the machine and do the plate change and all those additional costs. By going to the one banner, it saved us some revenue there. And then making that very difficult decision to go from a TMC to the paid circulation model. And then again, dropping our because we were doing almost 30,000 papers a week, whether people wanted them or not. So now, going from 30,000 to 7,000, big difference. So that was a big savings in cost. At the same time, we had to lower our rates, right? You can't charge someone the same price if you're doing lower circulation. So we lowered the rates, and we also changed our business model too, that said, if you sign up for a newspaper campaign, we're going to include some digital marketing with that as well. So we do have packages where if you buy a certain size display ad for a certain frequency, you're going to get X number of impressions onto the press.net website as well. And that seems to be very well received by our customers. So that was our main thing, was how we restructured with the name of the paper, the circulation, and combining the print and the digital as one package.
Excellent. And how big is your staff? How many people work at the press?
We currently have about 15 employees, most of them full-time, couple part-time.
And you were able to sustain that through the pandemic. So good for you. We actually had a few more before the pandemic, to be honestly. And really where the struggle is right now is the sales team.
I had a sales manager and 3 salespeople. Obviously, they had to all get furloughed during the pandemic when there was nobody to talk to, and then life changes for different people. And actually, one of them did come back, but then had other issues and left. So for the last year and a half, I really haven't had a sales team. Had a couple of part-time, freelance salespeople that are helping, and I still have those people. But we really are still looking for I'm still looking for a sales manager and still looking for some full-time salespeople, if you know anybody out there.
Well, so in this podcast, we're selling the name, the press, and we're and we're doing job listings too. I'm just kidding. You know how to get the news out there. What sort of companies do you work best with in terms of your ad space and
being the fact that we're a community weekly, 90% of our customers are the local small mom and pop businesses. We have the local car dealership, we have the local attorneys, some of the retailers, professional services, painters, people like that. So it's really more local folks. Traditionally the big box places aren't so interested in the weekly newspapers because they'd have to advertise in so many papers. But yeah, 99% of our customers are the local mom and pop businesses here in town.
And obviously your circulation, you're printing only 7,000 papers now. About how many people are putting eyes on your website these days?
Well, that's the big exciting news. Prior to the pandemic, we were very excited when we were telling people that we had 40,000 people coming to our website every month. We now are seeing over almost 100,000 people a month to our website. During the height of the pandemic, we were pushing close to 150,000 with close to 250,000 page views. Now we're settling in about 90 to 100,000 people per month on the website, looking at approximately about 150 to 200,000 page views. And obviously that number varies depending on how much breaking news we have. It's just like anything, the more car accidents and fires and, sensational news is what drives the traffic to the website and the shares and stuff. So, but no, we have a very robust website. We're very excited. That's definitely a factor that saved us.
That's excellent. And what is the population in your surrounding towns that you're generating those sorts of numbers?
Our market is just over 100,000 people. Between Brentwood, Oakley, and Discovery Bay, we're just over 100,000 people between the 3 cities.
And somehow you have attracted just about every single one of them to your newspaper. That's fairly impressive.
Yeah, well, and again, a lot of them are coming multiple times. When they look at the sessions, be honest with you, and people are listening, and if you come to the website 3 times during that month, you're going to count as 3 sessions. But yeah, no, we do have a high percentage of the readership. Of our community that love our paper. Been doing this, like I said, since the beginning for 23 years. We're very highly respected and trusted, here within the cities, and with the cities themselves. The city managers and the superintendents, they know that they can trust us. They can tell us something that they don't want printed just yet, so that we get the scoop and we know what's going on. So we're not anticipating or saying something that's not 100% been verified yet. So the fact that they could tell us things and know that it's not going to get published until it's supposed to. It's nice. And even with the couple reps that I have, the new person I just hired said, it's amazing. I go out and talk to people and there's nobody has anything but positive things to say about the press. So very well liked. And our focus is the kids, the schools, the community, local heroes and their accomplishments, and keeping the city council honest.
That's an important one these days, isn't it? Hey, I applaud your fortitude to carry the torch for old school newspapers. Small town newspapers in this sort of market is not the easiest thing to do. I grew up in a small town an hour north of New York City, and I can't imagine us not having had our local newspaper. And I hope that many more people like you are still carrying the torch, because it's important. Mass media is what it is, and there's a lot of money that is behind the stories that we do and don't see. And as we know, the term alternative facts is thrown around in the last few years, and it's important that there are people like you still doing what you're doing.
Yeah, and the same thing with the fake news, right? That was the whole issue. People that were part of a newspaper organization, they were journalists. They went to college. They took ethics courses. They took courses on what's fair and what's right. And unfortunately, in the last 5-10 years, where with these little computers that we all carry around, that anybody that knew how to create a blog and cobble a couple sentences together, all of a sudden they felt that they were a reporter or a journalist and didn't have the ethics and the couth that you needed to have. And here we are today, with the term fake news. And It's kind of crazy. But yeah, it's an important factor, and we take a lot of pride in that. I said my wife and I, and the importance of being that community newspaper and being the voice of the people and giving the people the information that they need. I heard a statistic the other day. In the last 5 years, 360 newspapers have closed across the country. Bigger chunk in the last 2 to 3 years since the pandemic, but it was a stat for the 5 years. And how there's now a new term called news desert, where some of these cities and towns don't have a local newspaper, and they're not, and the issues that they're starting to see, and it's going to be sad to see what happens over the next decade or so when we start losing some more of these community newspapers, and how things will change, and how will there be issues where cities are kind of hiding some stuff under the rug because no one's watching them. Right.
Yeah, no, it's important to have transparency in government at every level, especially a local level, right? Unfortunately, if a town doesn't have a newspaper and there's no town, council notes that are being published, people don't really know what's going on, and voter turnout in this country is as low as we both know it is. So truly, I applaud you for finding a way to make it viable in the 21st century, when again, everybody is on the computer that's in their pocket instead of picking up a paper.
And even yesterday, I noticed it's getting challenger by the day. I noticed that the Ring app, which is obviously becoming very popular, the Ring, and they now are starting to send out some little news tips. So now I have a doorbell company that's going to be my new competitor, and between next door, so you have all these different other social media platforms besides the big ones that everybody knows of, Facebook and, Twitter, Instagram, but just some of these other outlying software companies, next door, like I say, Ring, the Ring doorbell people, putting out more national type news and that kind of stuff. But it does make that the challenge. It really does make that the challenge. So that's why we stayed focused to our motto from the beginning, is that it's the local, local, hyper local. What are the kids doing? Who won the football game? The holiday parade? The new restaurant that opened up, so on and so forth.
Excellent. What's something you'd like to be celebrating personally and professionally a year from now?
Wow, that's another interesting question.
Well, I can't throw softballs to a newsman. Come on.
Yeah, no. Well, one of the things that I'd love to have as a goal would be to have a sales manager. Like I say, trying to get my sales team built. That's a challenge, finding people that actually want to work. And the sales industry is a very challenging industry, right? It takes a certain kind of person. So that would be one of the things that would make me very happy if I had a sales manager that helped me build a team. I don't know, ski more. I'm a skier. Looking for, like I said, 3 hours from South Lake Tahoe. Very excited with all the snow we're getting. Hopefully I'm going to get up there this month, but I have a week up in February. I think just kind of staying alive, keeping this thing going, which is really what that goal is and it's, and we're like any other small business, we're kind of going paycheck to paycheck. It's a challenge. It really is a challenge. I mean, I think that is the hardest thing that most small newspapers are dealing with. Hence, I said earlier, 360 of them closed. So, what my wife and I, we thank God every day for the opportunity to be here, and that, and we're employing 14, 15 people that are local. So that's really important to us too, to keep those people, going. And again, having the community so they have their newspaper. It was so, the sidebar, when we decided to make that change from Brentwood Press, Oakley Press, Discovery Bay Press to the Press, that was a big concern for me, because for so many years, that was part of our presentation, that it's your little Brentwood Press, your hometown newspaper, and it's your paper, and you take ownership of it. And by changing it to a more generic name, the Press, but we really only had 2 people that commented about taking that name away, since everybody always referred to us as the Press anyway. But that was a big decision, because that's what our success was, and why many people over the years, when we started this paper, there was only just under 20,000 people in Brentwood. We now have 65,000 people. So that was part of that thing over those 20 years, is how do you grow a town from 20 to 60,000 people, but still keep that small hometown charm? Yeah. And we had many people that did say that they attributed that to the newspaper, because it had information about them and their kids and the schools and what the concerts and the parks were, and what was that fire or that car accident that was happening, and they knew that they could trust their local community newspaper.
Greg, please tell us what your URL is, how people can find you, and what social media channels you use.
Well, thanks for asking. Our website is www.thepress.net. So that's our main website. I did mention earlier, we do have an app, which is called The Press. So we're very excited about that. And you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and my new social media manager even set us a TikTok account. So we're pretty much out on every platform, and everything is under the name The Press.
Excellent. I repeat, I applaud your fortitude. Obviously, your community appreciates you, and I wish you continued success. Greg Robinson of the Brentwood Press and Publishing, it's been lovely having you here today on Business Ninjas.
Well, thank you for having me, and look forward to continuing our relationship and talking.
Excellent. Be well.
Thank you. Have a good day.